Welcome to Five Nates. How quickly do you want your bosses to die? Hey, I'm Cyclon, and today I want to share with you what I think is right now the most powerful way to play a Witch Hunter. Now, before we're going to get into all these things, there's three important things I need to mention. The first thing is that this is early access. The build has already been nerfed, and it still is one of the best builds, but because this is early access, further changes, nerfs, or buffs to different aspects of the game might come. Don't play anything just because somebody, including me, tells you it's overpowered. Play the game in a way you enjoy. The second thing is, if I show background footage, I need to see how I can pace this out. The background footage is mostly Cruel Act. So this is background footage is Act 1 to 3 in Cruel difficulty, so 4 to 6 once I already had most of the stuff and a decent amount of levels. It is important to note that the patch that nerfed Gas Grenade dropped at 7:11 and I finished my campaign at about 8:30. So most of the kills were yesterday before the nerfs, but some of the kills happened afterwards and I didn't even notice it, to be honest. I didn't even notice that I was doing less damage. The bosses still died so very quickly. That said, let's take a look at the last disclaimer. The last disclaimer is that I have no idea how to properly make PoE 2 guides yet. It's still new. I can use concepts that I used in PoE 1, but we don't have passive building that I usually just rampack with the information and give additional information in the video. So all the information will be for now in the video, and there will be timestamps that you can use to look at the different things. Now, let's look at how this is powerful, why this is powerful, and then take a look at the nerf. So what was happening was that you were able to place an oil grenade, set it on fire, and once it was on fire, just placing a gas grenade would automatically explode by it or by an ignited enemy standing in it. Now, post nerfs, we do less damage and it doesn't ignite fully automated as far as I've seen. So we do need to add a little bit extra in our skill rotations. But why did Gas Grenade even have to be nerfed? Gas Grenade has a very absurd attack damage modifier here. Now, an important additional note is that my number still says 559. However, the patch did happen already. It is supposed to be less than 468. This is at today on 7 AM. So I don't know why I still have the old number. It is feeling a little bit weaker, but I'm pretty sure that the patch did happen based on the statement the patch has been deployed without restarting the servers. At least there has not been any patch afterwards, it has just been this, so I assume that the patch did happen. Now, heading back in-game. This feels really, really great still. It nukes every boss and rare, and even for mapping it doesn't feel actually that bad. It is a grenade build. It plays very similar to people that have played PoE 1, very similar to Trapper or Miner, because we just place our grenades and that explodes, but it takes some time. We have ways to accelerate the process. I will cover those one by one, but for now it is a delayed damage build. So let's take a look at the rotations. For mapping, we just throw a gas grenade into an explosive grenade and it happens. Or we could also use explosive shot to proc. I'm mainly using explosive grenade because I use this combination to one-shot basically any pack that exists. And explosive shots I have as a emergency kill if there is a boss I need to kill or rare, or I can't wait for the damage, I need to apply it urgently, I have my explosive shot ready. I'm also using flash grenade. This is mainly my get out of jail free card. What happens if I'm surrounded by enemies or I'm stuck in a corner and I can't get out of it? I quickly drop my flash grenades, they knock back enemies, they blind enemies, and I can dodge roll usually out of it afterwards. That is great. It has also secondary use. Let's say I'm standing here surrounded by enemies. My grenades are about to explode, but I still need a bit of time. Then I can just drop my flash grenades in between. The enemies are blinded. And I have my time to wait for my grenades to explode. Flash Grenade is a really great defensive card. and it's great to just get out of of dangerous situations. Also, if you do have a little bit of life leech, you can see here, main hand life leech from physical damage. This is mainly physical damage, because it has no conversion on it. So if you have physical damage, it does do physical damage, so you do have also the added leech on it. This adds a little bit more quality of life on the gem, it feels really great. We then have Oil Grenade for our bossing rotation, and we're using Cluster Grenade for 3 additional damage, utilizing gems that are great synergizing with Cluster Grenade. We get to the gems in a moment. So Cluster Grenade we can just drop. We don't need to worry about anything about this. Just let it explode and adds 3 damage for us. Now Oil Grenade. Oil Grenade is great. Oil Grenade applies exposure for us. So just applying an Oil Grenade with an Explosive Grenade in this burning ground ignites enemies, applies exposure to them, it's great. So what exactly is happening is that Oil Grenade is applying a fire exposure on enemies standing on the burning ground once that we applied fire damage to it. So this is, it lowers their exposure and it also slows them down if there is oil. But as we exploded, we mainly just exploded and applied a fire exposure. And then we can utilize area of effect and duration so that this ground stays longer. But that was scrubbing ahead. And then, of course, Explosive Shot, I already mentioned it. That is really just our emergency apply of exploding. There's a 6th grenade I am not using just because of I'm running out of button space. I don't want to add a 6th grenade to our rotation. So for maps, I already showed, we have a very simple skill rotation. We just throw our grenades on the pack and we move on. We throw our grenades on the pack and we move on. We throw our grenades, we move on. Maybe we need to dodge roll, and that's about it. On bosses or on a rare, we apply the oil, we explode the oil. We don't actually need to wait. We can do this all in one row. I'm just showing this one in slow, then in proper. And then we, once the oil is applied, we just throw a bunch of poison grenades. We explode the poison grenades. Maybe we throw in a scatter grenade, a cluster grenade in between, and everything will just explode. It is really that strong. Now, let's show it once in one quick motion. Oil, fire, cluster, cluster, and explode. Anything that stands in there is dead. They're just, all those explosions are their own hits. So having 5 gas grenades overlapping means that the boss takes 5 explosions in their face, just getting nuked out into oblivion. But yeah, that much for that. Let's take a look at our current gem setup. The leveling gem setup will be a little bit later. Now, we're going to be starting with our main gem. Gas Grenade. Gas Grenade needs to have Scatter Shot and Fire Infusion. This flat damage gets really well scaled with all our other sources. We then can either use Immolate, Fire Penetration, or Elemental Focus, or Primal Armament. All 4 gems are decent. So if you mainly use Explosive Grenade into Gas Grenade, you can have Explosive Grenade apply the Ignite, and then Immolate gets already affected by Gas Grenade. If you are using Gas Grenade into Explosive Shot, I would rather recommend Primal Armament or Fire Penetration instead of Immolate. If you're using Elemental Focus on Gas Grenade, you cannot have Immolate on Explosive Grenade. So on Explosive Grenade, we need Fast Forward. Explosive Grenade has a very slow explosion speed. Where is it? Which light was it? Yeah, Fuse Duration 219, even with Fast Forward. Without it, 3 seconds. So we need the speed here so that it actually does something and we don't need to rely on Explosive Shot. So we have our big double damage on packs. And then we can use any damage improvements like Primal Armament, Fire Penetration. We don't want Elemental Focus or Immolate on here so that we have consistent Ignite even on normal packs. Then our secondary way to explode our gas grenades is Explosive Shot, utilizing Martial Tempo and Nimble Reload. Nimble Reload is a T3 gem, If you don't have access to it yet, this will feel a bit slower. You can use a double barrel instead. However, double barrel makes the reload slower, so this means that when you have shots, it's nice, but when it really comes down to it and you don't have a shot, this is taking too long to reload, especially if you need to dodge roll and play flash grenades and dodge and everything. So I'd rather just have it with just martial tempo and use it less until I have nimble reload, and then I can use it more. Oil grenade, we want magnified effect and persistence. We just want all the AoE and all the coverage on it. The less we need to apply this in our skill rotation, the better it is. And flash grenade, again, we just use as a panic button, a get out of jail button. We use overpower and we use maim. Maim slows the enemies down. Maim is again a T3 gem. If you don't have maim yet, you can use something like second wind, or you can use something like brutality. This is a physical skill, so it deals physical damage. Having brutality here helps this build up more stun. That's also great. Finally, we have cluster grenade. Cluster grenade needs the T2 gem Ingenuity and the T3 gem Payload. The tier 3 support payload is big for this because of its long cooldown. Having a high chance to explode in additional time is better than just trying to reduce the cooldown of this. The overall uptime of cluster grenade is good in this way. And then we have with one jeweler orb, we can add damaging things like elemental focus or emulate, but I rather have emulate on gas grenade as this is the main skill. This is just additional damage. For our spirit gems, I like Wind Dancer plus Attrition. Attrition is a tier 3 spirit gem, so we get to access to this very late. If you have spare spirit, you can use a War Banner, you can use a Herald of Ash, or you can use whatever you prefer. I like Attrition, it feels quite nice. The support gems for Attrition and Wind Dancer are Cannibalism, Clarity, Vitality. Cannibalism later on, it's a T3 support gem again. So first Vitality and Clarity and later on Cannibalism. Now, the Wind Dancer needs a very high dexterity. There will be parts of the campaign where you do not have that high of a dexterity. Instead you will use something like, again, War Banner or Herald of Ash. But Wind Dancer I really like. I'm putting high value on it, and I would not recommend not using Wind Dancer as a survivability layer on a Mercenary. Now, all that said, let's finally take a look at the passive tree before we're going to take a look at the leveling setup, the leveling progression of our gems. The passive tree, I would say, starts fairly simple. Actually, let's take the Ascendancy first. The Ascendancy. I went for Pitiless Killer into Judge, Jury, Executioner, however, this was wrong. I do not recommend this. I only later noticed that getting Zealous Inquisition and free AoE on the node before it, it's really good for clear. We already nuke bosses, we don't actually need that much more single target damage, so helping us with the clear Zealous Inquisition allows us to just nuke packs even better. It actually feels pretty nice, and we already scale AoE for our grenades anyway, so we have additional AoE for this Inquisition, and we also just scale area damage, that also helps there. After that we can get Pitiless Killer, and we don't actually get Pitiless Killer for bosses, we grab it for the clear again. The reason for this is following. Culling Strike is a 30% cull on magic and 20 on magic and 30 on normal, while a rare it's a 10%. This means that with the explosions and the grenades together, we quickly just nuke packs into the culling range and then they vanish. Now, what I will moving forward to do, and this is theoretical, I still need to get there because the labs are really hard in this game, just like many other things. Witchbane into No Mercy. We deal so much damage so quickly, we don't actually need Decimating Strike. In Sorcery Ward, I have to see how much evasion armor I can scale first before going, and I'm not using Weapon Swap at all, so this will definitely be my way to go. Maybe I'm going to cut out Pitiless Killer and get Culling Strike somewhere in my gear, and just go with Witchbane into No Mercy to kill bosses very quickly, combined with Inquisition if they spawn adds, or with Zealous Inquisition for the mapping part. I will have to see. But this is for the Ascendancy. Let's take a look at the rest of the tree. For the tree I went with the following, and I do recommend the pathing as well. We're gonna be going over the projectile damage. Now, some people go with the attack speed. Attack speed also seems to affect the grenade's throwing speed. But I wanted the damage early and I didn't feel the need to respec into these 3 attack speed nodes. We get more attack speed down the line. We then went for Volatile Catalyst. Volatile Catalyst gives us AoE and cooldown recovery rate. This is about the stage where we're gonna be getting most of our nade stuff and it's gonna be fun. We then travel down because we want our nades to be the main thing and grab Grenadier. You can also grab the AoE node for the grenades here. I will likely grab it later on, but I have higher priorities, so I'd rather have this. We then grab volatile grenades into cluster bombs. You can also first pick up cluster bombs and then take volatile grenades. For me, it felt the cooldown on cluster bombs too long. I first wanted volatile grenades to have to shoot the fuse and then get the additional projectile. However, the projectiles are very, very powerful. So there is an argument to be made to first grab cluster bombs. If you want to utilize weapon swap, you can do the following. Instead, you grab these nodes with weapon set 1 and these nodes with weapon swap 2. This will be for utilizing fragmentation shot as an additional clear skill until it falls off and we are just using grenades. It's an option I wanted to share. I have not used it. I have heard others using it and I've seen others using it and it's looking good. For me, it didn't feel good when I tried it out, but at that point I just relied purely on my grenades. So I wanted to give that option. Now, once we have the setup here, we first gonna go for Overwhelm. We take a bit of attack speed up, but the stun build up is really big and we do damage. And the great thing about PoE 2 is that all damage we do all nodes are very generic. So two-handed applies to bows, crossbows and melee weapons. So we can grab these and we can get colossal weapons for the AoE again. We can also pick up curved weapons, but I actually spec'd out of it. It didn't feel that necessary. And then I passed over here, picking up finishing blows and picking up stars aligned. Finishing blows is really, really great. It gives us damage against enemies on low life. Low life in PoE 2 is 35%. We get there very quickly, so this is the stage where bosses actually start to do their deadly attacks. So being more damage against them and having lucky hits against them. I know it's getting a bit messy on the tree here. Having lucky damage against them is really massive and helps you tremendously. This helps us getting the last bit of damage in safely and nuke the bosses into the death. Now, once you're here, you have options. If you feel like you need a bit more survivability, you can first pick up Hard to Kill, Feel No Pain, and Battle Hardened. Or you first take the Strength node and you pick up the cooldown recovery and go down, which I will go to in a moment. And go down and pick up Repeating Explosives first. I went for the damage first because I've managed to either dodge enough and kill enough, but I also had the pre-nerfed gas grenades. It could be that now you do want to get Hard to Kill, Feel No Pain and Battle Hardened next. But once you're at the bottom of the tree, once you have everything up there, we mainly grab nodes at the bottom of the tree. So once we have Distracting Presence, the survivability nodes and Repeating Explosives, we're gonna go left first. And first we're gonna be grabbing Authority for AoE and cooldown recovery. After we have that, we're gonna go further left and we pick up Smoke Inhalation for pen and go over the small pen node instead of the Chance to Ignite node and pick up Incendiary because we do actually have burning and ignited enemies, so we just do more damage with Incendiary. Then we can again either decide by picking up first the survivability here with General's Binding, General's Biddings, I think it was. We have Evasion as extra armor, and then Leather-bound Gauntlets. This means, though, that once you grab this node, you do need an armor gloves. So you need to instantly get a high armor gloves that this actually gets worth it. So you can pick up here. And then you pick up the blind. Or you first pick up the blind. So we first go pick up the blind, and then we go over this wheel. And afterwards, we're gonna be grabbing Giant Slayer for, again, more damage on our bosses, so we nuke them even faster. Now at this point, you should be done with the campaign. What to do after? I'm actually not that quite sure myself yet. What I'm right now gonna be doing is I'm gonna be grabbing more elemental penetration. It's always a good node. And also right here is gonna be another cooldown node, which is gonna be great to have. And after, I'm not sure if I'm going to be grabbing more evasion. Like, there is an armor evasion here. Let me change the color to signify that. There's armor evasion here. There is armor evasion here. There is a great armor node here that gives armor applied to fire damage taken from hits. And gives us more armor, which armor in map seems very strong. I haven't played myself, but this is what I've heard others say. Or we're gonna go over in this direction because we're already here and we grab the evasion rating. Or maybe we grab all of those. Alternatively, something I've also considered is instead of going for defense, maybe I'm strong enough, I can pick up Tainted Strikes for crit chance, and I can pick up Power Siphon for more crit, and maybe I'm gonna be starting to use some bolts again in between my grenades. And I can start either using full salvo or reusable ammunition. I have to see on those. But this is my thoughts so far on where to proceed with the tree. Now, that out of the way, let's finally take a look at campaign. The first important thing for campaign is that always keep your items upgraded. Don't just pick up the fancy rares. Look at magic items that are armor evasion hybrid or pure evasion basis for early campaign. Also check up all blue and rare crossbows. Now, this is what you do up to level 33. On level 33, we get access to the Bombard crossbow. Pick up every single Bombard crossbow you find and make them all at least magic. If one is a decent magic crossbow, and you have a Regal Orb, make it rare. I got unlucky, I didn't find any Regals until I was like level 50. So if you find Regals, make the bow rare, try to get the bow as good as possible. Because you're gonna be using this for a while. This was a bow I used all the way to level 59 until when I found, or actually I bought this one. I bought the next proper bow I had access to. A Fizz Fire hybrid bow, the lightning damage was on it, I didn't find a better one. This lightning hybrid bow 59, and this is what I'm likely gonna be using way into maps until I find my next crossbow upgrade. The additional projectiles is massive. Because our grenade shotgun, we cannot use another bow without feeling like we are wasting potential. So the advanced bombard or normal bombard crossbows are the bows we want, and advanced has a better base fizz, so this is what we will be going with the late game. For the rest of the gear, look to keep your strength and dexterity high. You need a decent amount of intelligence for your gems. I think you need like 20 or 15. I have 28, so yeah, about 20 intelligence. And then keep your dex high, keep your strength high. You do need a high dex for Wind Dancer. Don't underestimate Wind Dancer, it's more evasion. It does feel quite nice to have these defensive layers, and I do recommend having them. Now, let's take a look at the skill gem progression. First of all, the normal gems are very simple. We're gonna be starting with Permafrost Bolts. Permafrost Bolts can be supported by Pierce and Cold Infusion early on, but I will just use Pierce as we are very quickly wanting to swap over to our grenades. So Permafrost Bolts I will use I would grab this gem first. Early on, we don't have any mobility, any flash grenades. We really are in a very weak initial state. So having freeze as your first survivability layer is great. Pick this one up first and follow it up by fragmentation rounds. Your initial combination of skills is gonna be permafrost, freeze an enemy. Once any enemy in the pack is frozen, drop the fragmentation rounds, shoot the pack, hit the frozen enemy, it's gonna shatter, it's gonna explode, and it kills the pack with it, hopefully. If not, we repeat this process. The third gem is gonna be Explosive Grenade. Once we have Explosive Grenade, we do want to support it with Scatter Shot. With Scatter Shot and Fiery Infusion. Those are the next two support gems we grab, and we're gonna add it to Explosive Grenade. So that when we do hit level 5, once we get access to Gas Grenade, we can instantly swap them over. But before we get Gas Grenade, we're gonna get Flash Grenade. Once we have Flash Grenade, we have our Get Off G card, Flash Grenade, we want to get Overwhelm, and then either Brutality or Second Wind. We can also get Magnitude for now, but that will be better later. So, again, showing the gems we want here. Flash Grenade, we want with Overpower. And Maim is very late, so instead of Maim, we can use Magnified Effect. We can use Second Wind, or we can use Brutality. Brutality on Flash Grenade gives it more damage. Because early on we mainly do physical damage, and we only need the physical here. It helps with the stun build up, it helps with the knockback. It is decent to have on Flash Grenade. Now, after Flash Grenade, we're gonna eventually get our Poison Grenade. And here's where the build, or our Gas Grenade. And here's where the build really starts. Once we have this, we need to do some changes. Once we have Gas Grenade, we're gonna need to do the following. Gas Grenade needs to be instantly linked up with Scatter Shot and Fire Infusion, and we need to get Fast Forward for our Explosive Grenade. Our Explosive Grenade will become from our main damage to our secondary damage. So we're gonna be linking up with Explosive Grenades and Martial Tempo. So this would be then our 3-link. Explosive, Fast Forward, Martial Tempo. So that we use this to explore our Gas Grenades. We don't have access to Explosive Shot yet. We need to utilize Explosive Grenade to explode the Gas Grenades, but it does massive damage when we do. Now, we can use our Permafrost into fragmentations for a little while, but we actually also get access to Galvanic Shards here. Galvanic Shards is really great from early to mid-campaign clear. Now this is what I've heard and seen, but haven't played myself. I need to be aware that in my gameplay I haven't used it, but I do recommend using it from what I've seen. It is actually quite nice. So what you want to do is you want to get Galvanic Shards, and you want to link it with Pierce and Lightning Infusion. This will just keep the maps clear. This is for what I mentioned the weapon swap with. So this is when you want to use instant reload, and you want to have Ricochet on a weapon swap setup on a crossbow that has either plus additional bolt, plus additional projectile, and has as much lightning damage as you can for helping you with clear. Once you hit the tier 7 gems, the gem you actually want is Explosive Shot. And we want to link Explosive Shots once we have other gems on Explosive Grenade with Martial Tempo. We don't get access to Nimble Reload. Nimble Reload is a tier 3 support gem. So we only get access to this very late into the campaign, which means we can't rely on that. So this is why Explosive Shot for most of the campaign will be more of a utility skill than an active skill. Oh well, we're gonna keep it as an emergency button for an emergency explosion. You can use Double Barrel as mentioned. Double Barrel is neat for Explosive Shot, but it has the downside that the reload takes much longer, and the reload is already a downside, so I opted to not use it that much. I rather just had my Explosive Grenade already. On the next tier, we finally get access to our Oil Grenade. Here is where we start doing big damage. So once we have Oil Grenade, if we used a magnifying effect on our Flash Grenade, we're gonna move it over to Oil Grenade. There is a strip away support gem which is decent for Oil Grenade, but our main reason for wanting Oil Grenade is to apply the Burning One at the first moment. So having a duration on this is way more important than having the effectiveness slightly improved on this. So focus persistence over strip away. If you already have everything else, 4 links that you want 4 link, you can add a 4th link here for strip away, but it isn't needed. And we finally on level 52 get access to the tier 13 gems with Cluster Grenade. Cluster Grenade is another thing that needs a little bit of additional time before it feels good. We can instantly link it up with Ingenuity and Elemental Focus. That part is great, but Payload is another T3 support gem, and we only get access to that tier of support gems into the later parts of, I think, Act 5 it was. So Cluster Grenade will be a little bit longer, not that great, until we 52, and I think at 55 or 56 is where I got T3 gems, and then Cluster Grenade started feeling really good. Our Spirit Gems. Let's start with those. Early on, you will likely have to use either Herald of Ash or War Banner. I like the green arrows more. War Banner was my choice for a single target. Herald of Ash would be a mapping focus. I only gotten 1 Spirit Gem for most of the early campaign, so I was stuck on War Banner and couldn't experiment much. If you have the chance, experiment with both. See what feels great. If needed, swap on bosses or swap in zones where you know you're gonna be having a big boss fight. Stacking up a War Banner in a zone, placing it down, bursting the boss away is feeling very great. And especially now with the post-nerf meta, or with post-nerf scenario, having that additional accuracy and more attack damage is very great. However, what I wanted all the time was on the Ranger Wind Dancer. Wind Dancer I saw just be so great. More evasion rating feels very powerful in campaign, and also hopefully going into maps. I really wanted to have this gem. And it did work out once I had enough dexterity, once I fixed my dex issues. Wind Dancer felt really great. Also, it does do a tiny pushback and knockback when you get hit by melee attacks, helping you with repositioning yourself. Once you have attrition, I think is a must-have. The reason attrition is that great, even though you get it very late, like at, I think it was level 58, is actually where you do get it. You get this one super late into the campaign for the last few zones, but this more damage against unique enemies for the second they're in your presence means that the longer you spend in a boss fight, even if you don't get them hit with the initial burst and they start moving around, just standing next to you for the boss duration means that you will do more and more damage, and it will be easier and easier to nuke them down if they stand still for a moment. Now, the video doesn't have to be longer than it has to be. If you decide to join me in the Poison Grenade journey or Gas Grenade journey, and if it worked out well for you, getting you either through campaign or getting you into maps or getting you through maps, be free to come back, give this video a like, and also just subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It would help me, and it helps my video reach more people that it will be helpful to. All that being said, above me you will be finding a video that the YouTube algorithm thinks is going to be interesting to you, and to the left of the screen you're going to be finding a playlist with my Ascendancy overviews. All that being said, have a wonderful day, goodbye.